Welcome to this virtual fireside chat being brought to you by Reuters Events Insurance. I'm your host, Lisa Wardlaw, and joining me today is Mike Fiato, EVP Chief Claims Officer, Allstate. Mike, thank you so much for joining us in advance of the Connected Claims event. Always exciting to not only speak with you on stage, but off stage. So thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to start with a little bit of the industry outlook. There's so much going on today in the industry, macro headwinds, frequency and severity. What would you say, where is the claims industry now versus the last 6 months, and what has brought us here?
It's a good question. I think our industry is cycling faster than it really ever has before, at least in my experience. So I think we're trying not to be slow followers with technology. I think AI is a good example of that, where I think we see as an industry opportunities, and rather than wait and be super conservative, I think there's a lot more movement and appetite to take a little risk, right? And to try to be more proactive in building capabilities and gaining competitive advantage. It's all about getting out in front.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because, and you and I have had this discussion a little bit, but I think a lot of times we think of claims as being the back end of the process, but yet, I mean, we always talk about that moment of truth, that moment that matters. But honestly, I've seen a lot in the industry right now about we're doing so much, but are we really doing enough? There's a little bit of this feeling of, and by the way, we're all standing here together, united, because we love our industry and we want the industry to be able to do more. And so I think it's very humbling when industry veterans look down and say humbly, we can do more. We can do more. And I call it this little bit of leakage of customer experience, meaning we're doing our best. There's not a single person in the industry, especially in the claims vertical, that doesn't want to serve in those moments of truth and those moments that matter. But yet sometimes we don't always deliver that thing that we're aspiring to deliver, which is the ultimate customer experience. And I call that a little bit of like leakage within that customer journey, that customer experience. How do you think, as you're someone I look to, in terms of marking the industry as a hallmark of where we should be going? How do you think as a leader we could be doing a little bit more in this area? And what are things that are you're focused on with your team and with other fellow industry leaders to kind of shore that leakage up for customer experience?
I think about this a lot because it's a complicated question. And it sounds like an easy question, but think about the dynamic within which we work in our industry. First, everything we're trying to do for our customers, either to restore them or to protect them, is met with resistance. There's some force trying to get us to do something different or to create a different outcome. That creates a set of challenges. We also have the challenge of our respective organizations expect us to be expense efficient, right? Which nothing wrong with that, but it's still challenging when you're trying to achieve other goals. And I think the third thing is, and this probably is the most important, is we have a lot of tools and technology that have come to the forefront. How do you match that with claim professional capabilities to create better outcomes for our customers? I actually think that's the big question. You can get enamored with the bright, shiny object, but it's still ultimately this individual that we've hired, trained, cultivated, that has to deliver. And so if those tools aren't built and then executed on with complete synergy with your claim staff, you're going to create outcomes you're not going to be happy with.
Yeah, I was talking one day about I've personally experienced a claim a year ago. It's become kind of well known because I talked about it on LinkedIn, although I never named the insurance carrier because, you know, I understand our industry very well and I love our industry. But what really struck me, Mike, was I was on a call with this claims adjuster and she was very frustrated on this call, not to me, but about her systems. And she articulated to me, you know, I've got all these screens, I've got all these systems, and I can't even see what you can see in your app. And she wasn't, by the way, she wasn't being mean. She was just being human. Like she was literally just telling me, because I told her I worked in the insurance industry. She was just telling me, like, you should see what it's like on my side, right? Like I'm trying to help you. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, you bring up a great point, and it of course it was not your insurance company, so I'll save anybody the innuendo there. But but I can imagine this being many carriers, which is the reason why I bring this up. And to your point, you're bringing up a great perspective, which is not only adoption and use, but it's how do we take out the friction that those claims adjusters are feeling when they're interacting and engaging with flavor of the day tools that we've all strung together to enable and help. Like, how do we make it not only meet, we talk a lot about meeting the customer where they are at and giving them whatever channel, whatever tooling they need. But I think your point is we also need to enable and meet our adjusters and our examiners where they are at along that journey. How do you, you know, how do you navigate that? Like to your point, that's the hard part, right?
Well, it is the hard part because, and it goes back to the first comment that I made about the how fast our industry, particularly in claims, is cycling technology into use versus what it had been, you know, a few decades before was pretty slow. And so I do feel like the more you introduce new tools, the harder it is for an adjuster to change their processes, right? If you think about, I have an estimating system, I might have some other tools like a rental management system, and I use those every day, over and over and over again. So I get good flipping between different systems and different screens, and it becomes very routine. But when we continue to add new tools, and we might integrate the tools in certain ways, but not 100%. Very hard for adjusters to constantly change their processes. And the bottom line is they get frustrated because they're trying to do the best for their customer and meet many demands. And it's hard. And even, you know, homegrown systems, commercially available systems, they might have amazing integration layers, but do they really integrate that technology or that tool into the process seamlessly? The answer is
Yeah.
probably not. Probably not. And so
Yeah.
I think all of what we're doing, you know, there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in our industry, and I'm behind most of it because I think it's really going to be helpful. But if you're not doing this with an eye towards creating a happy employee, it's like you're at odds. You just are.
Yeah. Which I love your emphasis on that. So of course we couldn't have this conversation without talking about the newest shiniest ball, which is AI and Gen AI, which is yet more toolkits that we're trying to layer on top of these integratable systems and things like that. But with AI and Gen AI transformation, like just accelerating so quickly, not only for our employees, but for our customers, right? Like our customers have democratized access to this tooling, so they kind of know what's out there. What do you think we should be doing to embrace this and move our own transformation along? And I'm going to connect it back to what you just said, because I think it's a great segue in. I think if we just do it for the customer, not for the employees, we might be kind of creating more divergence than convergence. But what are you thinking about when it comes to AI and Gen AI, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably talk about this for the rest of the day, right? It's a fascinating topic, and there's numerous possibilities. I think every carrier figures out its own strategy of how aggressive or proactive they want to be, and in what areas of the process. I think there's a couple things that are really important. One is you got to educate your entire employee base. Can't just educate your managers. You can't assume, because I think there's a lot of misinformation about this is going to replace everybody's job. This makes all the decisions. Neither one of those things are true. Um, can it make us more efficient? Yes. Can it, if used properly, can it create better decision support? I certainly think so. And I'm probably willing to bet on that. Are there efficiencies that we can create? Yes. For me, it's about how do I think about this in terms of a roadmap that I can turn into an ecosystem, right? It can't be scatterplot where I'm just kind of picking randomly at capabilities that I want to impact. I think you've got to, for me, I've got to figure out how to build a better system for my reps. This always comes down to rep happiness. I mean, it really does, right? All the tools, all the
Yeah.
technology, if you're not marrying that, if I can help a rep be better at their job and feel better about the work they're doing through the use of AI or generative AI, it's a win. It's a huge win for the organization.
Well, I will say you had me at hello because I talk a lot on my podcast where we focus on AI and applying AI in insurance called Insurance Unplugged. We talk a lot about avoiding the point solution aspect of this. So think of this as an ecosystem or an enterprise play, and not just like an enterprise-based system, but an ingrained and embedded layer upon which you apply these things. So I love the way you're thinking about that. So let's move to the next area that you said is like in this puzzle that you're trying to put together. It's cost efficacy and cost of claims, and the rising cost of repair, of course, is a big topic in our industry, especially with the hardening market. Um, what do you think insurance carriers can do or should be doing to tackle this challenge? And I know cost of claims is in and of itself a multifaceted dimension. We could probably have a whole fireside just about that. But what do you think people should be focused on when it comes to cost of claims and overall, like reducing the cost?
Yeah, I mean, I think the place where we spend the most money, in terms of frequency is probably in the repair process, right? And
Yeah,
so, um, and then there's the restorative process of people's homes. And I think, I think we have to embrace the opportunity to uh, define solutions that put the customer at the center of the outcome. We have lots of business partners, right? We engage with lots of folks who provide services and tools, and that's great. But we also have this whole other group of people who are actually doing the work on behalf of the customer, who aren't like in a business partnership. And
right.
I think we have to put a lens on this that says, how do I work with that body shop or that contractor who isn't a partner in the literal sense, but we can be partners to put that insured or claim it back where we need to put them. And I think that's hard to do. It's hard for me to do at times, right? I'm been doing this a long time. It's not the approach that was used for a long time. But I think there's a lot of economic pressures on everybody. Carriers, vendors, suppliers, it's all out there. And I think everybody's trying to do the best they can. And if the lens is let's work together versus let's be at odds, I think being at odds is inefficient. I think being at odds is not good for the customer. Doesn't mean giving away things you shouldn't give away, but it means having a different view, right?
Yeah.
And I think uh, I'm trying that on, right? I'm asking my organization to be more thoughtful in that way, and to the degree that it creates better outcomes, awesome. I wish I had the magic wand to change the economy and change the trajectory of the cost of repairs and the cost of labor, but I don't. So in that sense, it's like the other, you have to be thoughtful about solutions.
Yeah. I love that what I every time I meet with you, I learn like another layer, but I love your lens on we have to be willing to try new things on that's not how we used to behave as businesses. It's not necessarily contractually what we're obligated to do. And that it kind of ties to that hashtag that we use a lot when it comes to claims, which is like, do more. Let's do more together. Let's do more as an industry, because at the end of the day, we actually all aspire to support our customers in the greatest way possible. So I love what you said, you're willing to try new things on. So with that in mind, and we come to the end of this very brief fireside, what would you expect to see in claims over the next year or so? What's your outlook, Mike? And we'll say we heard it here first.
I don't think the cycle of development and delivery changes. I think it stays at a very fast pace. I don't think the economic pressures necessarily ease materially. Um, I think the economy might change a bit, right? And I think a lot of carriers have gotten rate. I think maybe some carriers who are really struggling with profitability start to do a little better. You know, when you take as much rate as we've had to take as an industry, there's an outcome to that. I think the expense pressure doesn't go away. So I would say status quo to a degree, with lots of opportunities for internal to your own company change and progress, because we all have a plan. And to the degree that the environment cooperates and we can execute on that plan, that's pretty exciting.
I love it. Well, thank you, as always, Mike, for being with me on this virtual stage today on a fireside chat. Thank you, audience, for listening in, and hopefully we will see you at Connected Claims.
Thanks, Lisa. Take care.